everyone. Today I'm going to go over with you some things that I learned through time. So my story is that I come from teaching elementary school art, and then I became a middle school teacher, but I'm teaching digital art. So when I'm teaching digital art, I'm working fully online, fully with computers with my students. And that started in August, September. And there were just so many things that I did not know yet. Such as, uh, how to get into Google Classroom and use that, how to use Google Forms, which platform was the best, the details that you only find out when you make a mistake later with the students and then you wish that you knew and someone had just told you all of this stuff. So I'm your guinea pig. I spent the past 2-3 years learning how to teach online. I took a flipped teaching course, a grad school course, on the art of ed online a few years ago, and then it took me about 1.5 years to start fully using it in my classroom. 2 years ago, I taught every single teaching demo through video because it was just better for my layout in my classroom. I was teaching, if I taught 5 second grade classes in a week, that same demonstration could be used 5 times. So I've been a fan of flipped teaching for a few years. When I switched into digital art this year, I then had to learn how to accept assignments and how to utilize Google Classroom, and then different online tools for my students so that they could submit things to me through the computer. And then the other thing that I have learned through time is what did not work and what you learn when you kind of make a mistake. So I'm going to go through all of that with you. So in Google Classroom, make sure I'm on the right account. In Google Classroom, which I had no idea how to use before this school year, there's a couple really great things. So when you start a class, let's say I was to create a class, you are going to give it a name, give it a section, so this could be like period 2, say your grade, your subject, your room number, let's just call this the home. Okay, well, I'm going to create that. So when you're in Google Classroom, you're going to have a code to give your students, and when you give the students this code, you can click on this link and copy it. Now, when you give them this code, you can give it to them and they can log in, and that's the only time on that device that they'll have to use that code. Then they're just logged in, whether it's an app on a phone or their computer. Normally, it'll just log them in through their email. Now, you see something different than them, and that's the most important thing to know, because your students see your stream, and this is your stream. I could say, hello students, right here. I could post a little video for them. Now, the thing about this is they can comment on these, and now you're going to have some kids that really like to comment and really like to say crazy things in here. Now, if they say something that you don't like, you can always right-click on it and delete it, and then it will give you the option to mute that student. You can unmute them later, but that's going to be your choice. So the other thing to note about when you're in Google Classroom is that you can post an assignment. Now, here's the thing that it took me a while to understand was posting assignments. You can post it in 2 different ways. You can go here and post links in here. If you have an assignment here, you could type it in and tell them all about it. But if it's an actual assignment you want them to hand work into, you can do this. You can click on Create. You can click on Assignment. You can click on Quiz. You can click on Question, or reuse a post that you did in the past. So that might happen later for you. So if I create an assignment, I'm going to give it a title. And then the most important thing to know is that you can give it points. So the students do see this. You can give it a due date, and it'll tell them if their work's overdue, or give it like a countdown for them on the left side there. You can give it a topic. I generally will just add a photo of my rubric here by clicking Add and then file, and then just have a little snapshot of my rubric that I attach to the document. So let's say that I do that. I say the project expectations here. I could give it a due date. Let's say it's next week or tomorrow. And then I assign it. Now, before you click assign, this is the part that took me a while to get to. You can change who this is for. So that says save draft. I've never seen that before. Or schedule for later. That's cool. I didn't realize that. I'm learning too. Okay, so if you're in here, so the reason it's not letting me click this drop down is I only have the one class. But right here, I would be able to click down and then select the different classes that I want to add to. And that's really helpful so that you're not going to that class again, redoing the assignment. You can simply just make the assignment and then schedule it for each class. So that's really helpful. I'm going to click assign. Okay, now the other thing to note is that you can click on people and then it'll have all your students listed here and you can click through your students. Due to privacy, I'm not going to show you my real classroom. And then you can click on grades. If I don't grade in Google Classroom, I just do it right into my grade book, but that's going to be up to you. Now with the classwork, I can click on this. It'll tell you how many are turned in, how many are assigned is what's left over, and then you can click on view assignment. So when you're in view assignment, you're going to click on that and it'll list all your students here, and then it'll tell you which students have the files attached. Now, the thing to note about this is you're the only person that can see this. So if you make an assignment and you have all your students, it took me a while to realize this too. My students can't see all the other work turned in. So in my classroom, I'll put it up on the board so that I can go through and say, hey, this is how many I have turned in. They just see they turned something in. I can post a link to telling them how to turn their work in because I can't show you this because I'm not the student. But they just simply have to go into the assignment, click add or create file, and then submit it. I also have a really great link to a video where someone's showing how to attach photos of work. So if they do something, they can take a picture or a scan and submit it on the phone to Google Classroom. I have that great video too. So the reason that I am making this video is because in the beginning of the year, I struggled a lot with just these little details like learning Google Classroom. It's simple now that you've seen it, but navigating it on your own is a little bit stressful. And also because I've had a few art teachers or people who haven't done random things like working in Google with students, and I'm an art teacher, so working with digital art programs. So I'm going to work my way through other things that are helpful in Google and Google Classroom that have worked for me teaching digital. If you were just here for the Google Classroom thing, that's great. No worries, you don't have to watch the whole thing, but I'm just going to walk through everything that's helped me through time, and maybe it'll help you too. Maybe it'll help someone else if you want to pass it along to them. So the other thing that's helpful is in Google Classroom, the students can add files that they've created, but they can also click on add or create and click on Google Docs. And when they add or create that doc, it'll make a doc for them, and then they can type in it. So they have Google Docs they can make, Google Slides, and it's just a simple drop-down menu that they can go to and click add or create file. So let me see if I have a class that I can show you. We'll come back to that. Okay, so if I'm in this one first, for example, if I click all right, so we're going to move on. So another thing that's worked for me is making Google Forms. So if you go to Google Forms, you can make pretty much a test. And my former classmate showed me this, and it's been really helpful. I forgot how to use it along the way and then kind of learned again. So just that repetition can help. So when you make a Google Form, it's cool because you give the students a link, you can give it to them in Google Classroom, and then it'll give you all of their responses. So to make the Google Form, you can ask them a question like, I don't know, what was the hardest part of the assignment for you? what did you do well, right? So you can ask them a reflection question. Now, there's many options for you in Google Form. You can give them a multiple choice answer. So you could say, you know what, this portion of the project was really hard, so I'm going to write part A. Add another option. You can write part B. You get the point. So you can do multiple choice if you would like. Now, if you need them to answer this question, you can click on required. If you want to duplicate it and then change it, you can do that. If you want to get rid of it, delete. So another thing you can do is check boxes. So they could just click all the parts that they liked or did not like. And then you could do drop-down menus too, which would be basically it drops down and they pick one. So in here you can also add pictures, stuff like that. As an art teacher, you can insert photos here. You click on add image. You can insert pictures. You want to do an art history type thing or any subject really. So title your form, and then you can send it. So the most important part about this is if you don't have the email, you can just click on link, and then you can copy that link, put it right into your Google Classroom. Now that form is there for my students. So the thing to note about that is, for me, I don't know if I'm doing this wrong. Again, I still learn all the time, but my favorite first question to add on these forms, because I think there is something where you have their name or it says collect email. I don't really want to know their email. So I always require the first question to be your name, because if you don't get their name or their email or any information, you'll just have all these answers with no student on it. So I say, what's your first and last name, as a short answer as the first question required, so that their responses come in and I see their first question, their first answer. So I'm going to go to a survey. Response for you so you can see it. Let's see if I can find it. Okay. So while I load this up, I also want to say that I tried other things in the beginning of the year I thought were going to work. For example, before I went into Google Classroom, I was trying to use Google Drive, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to make all these folders. Look, I made all these folders, and when they go into these folders, there's going to be information, and they can just turn right into these folders. It's going to be great. And then my students did turn stuff into these folders, and I was able to share stuff with them here. However, the problem is that when they save something as the same title, it could be deleted, because it would save their work as the same title as somebody else's, and they could even delete people's files too, because if you're link sharing with them, they can delete. So I do not recommend using Google Drive for things where the students are turning in work and editing files, because it just didn't go as well. Now let me see if I can get these survey responses for you. Okay, so if I go to my survey responses, so the point is, you can export all of these responses into a Google form. So, for example, so I asked my students what they would like to create in Digital Palette. I asked them certain questions like, what would you like to do this semester? What are you most excited about? And when I click on that link, I can go to their responses, which I'll show you in a little bit, but I'm going to move on here. All right, so Google Sheets is a totally different thing. You can have students go in and ask them questions line by line. They can answer. I would recommend that as kind of like a call and response type thing. So this is super zoomed in. I'm just going to zoom this out a little bit. However, what I do with my students is I will give them project steps on the left here. So I'll list it by what project it is. I also have which projects I would like them to have turned in. And then I have their names over here. I can give you guys a link to my copy file I've shared with visual art teachers. If you want to use it, you can just go to File, Make a Copy, and you can change it up, change the project steps, and they can use it on their own. So I found this to be helpful because when students are working in computers, everything gets a little bit more complicated, right? So clicking this, clicking that, how to save. So even if your students aren't working in computers and you're just not going to be able to be with them to give them steps, I find this really helpful. So you can give them the link. Again, I post my spreadsheet link to my Google Classroom right in the beginning of the class. You can always move the link up as well. So I could take that link. Let's say I had already shared other stuff with my students, and then later on I really want this to come back to life that I made our project link. Obviously I would have given that more information in the post, but you get the point. So I'm going to go move to top, and now I can move that up. It's always first thing they see, right? So through time I'll move that up so that they can find it easier. And this is a place where they can go, they can check off their project steps. I took out their names for privacy, but they can go in and check off their project steps on what they've done. And this was, yes, for them, but it was also for me because when students are working in their computers and I can't yet see their files, they don't have all their papers turned in to see their status, like I would in a regular art classroom, I was finding it was hard to know where they were and what they might have needed help with. So this is a place where they could go to say, hey, Miss Olson, I did a few steps here today. I'm not so sure about that one. So it kind of makes me know, okay, well, Johnny's okay to go here, but Sarah is like way behind, or they're just not telling me that they're done, so I need to check in with them. So I have all the projects we've done here and the steps, and they check off that way. Now, the way that I did that, again, I can give you this link, but if you're in a Google form, you want to do it in your own way, it's just cool because you can highlight different boxes and do insert checkbox. Now, the other thing about that is, yes, students can click each other's, but I just told them how hard I worked on it, and I really didn't want them to mess with it. One kid did, and he felt really bad, so just tell them you worked hard on it. The other thing you can do, other than just trying to guilt them into not messing it all up, is going right-clicking on the column, and you can do protect range. So if I click protect range, I can set permissions on that so that I already have it set up where I can only touch that, so they can at least mess with my directions. I can also do that with different columns, like this one, protect range. So they can't move the names, they can move the checkboxes, but that's about it. So that's something that I kind of came up with to help me this year. Maybe you want to use it too in your classroom to check off where students are and what they've done. I will put that link to the one that you can do file, make a copy with underneath here. Now, all right, so before I walk away from Google Forms, the responses are really cool. Now, we don't have them in here. Unfortunately, again, I didn't want to show you any student works. But what you can do is you can go in. I would not ask for your emails whenever people are done, but you can click on Create Spreadsheet. And what it'll do is it'll create that spreadsheet. So then it'll export all the responses to a spreadsheet. It'll tell you what their name was, what every answer to the questions were, and you can do tests in the Google surveys. You can do just a daily check-in. That's kind of what I'm probably going to do with it. And then also it'll make like complete graphs out of their responses in this area as well under responses. Okay, so another thing that's been really great for me through time at my former job was Seesaw. Before I got into Google Classroom, this was my Google Classroom. I recommend this with any age of younger students. They have platforms apparently for older ones too, but I've only used it with younger students. It's kind of like a social media for kids, but for education too. So the worst part about Google Classroom, as I said, is the students don't see each other's work. Maybe they'll create something now, especially with all that's going on, where students can interact more. But Seesaw has the lead with interaction. And what I did when I just logged on for the first time in a couple years, because I haven't used it with my middle schoolers, is when I logged in with my teacher email, it asked me if I wanted to import my classes from Google Classroom, which was really cool. And I don't know if it put all the student information in, but basically the coolest part about this is you can go in, you can engage families, you can click on journal to create a journal post, you can click add to post student work. So students will add their work in here. They can create videos, they can create photos, they can create little drawings. It's kind of like a student journal. You can also assign activities, but what I used it for is we wrote songs and I had them perform them in video in Seesaw. And then the coolest part is while they're working, when they post, they can go in and see each other's posts. Now, you have to accept that post. So you get to say, hey, this is okay for everybody to see. And you can navigate that and say whether it's okay for everybody to see or not. And then after you say, yep, that's good to go, all the students can like each other's work, and it's really interactive. So I kind of want to bring that into my classroom because the students aren't interacting in person anymore, so I want to be able to let them interact. So I may have them turning in some work in Seesaw. So Seesaw is really cool because you can do voice recordings, they can write, and they can interact with each other on their own posts. It's kind of like a kid's Facebook, and a former coworker introduced me to that. The next thing I'm going to show you is just Google Drive again. The biggest thing I wanted to say about this is it was a misstep for me was starting with Google Drive when I had a classroom for each student. When I had a classroom for each student in there and then I shared it with them, they could edit stuff. But, I mean, I don't know how well off everybody is with Google Drive. But I will say that if you're sharing a link in Google Drive, again, I don't know who I'm talking to, so if you are sharing a link in Google Drive, let's say I'm in here, and I'm in a new, I don't know, I wanted to share a slide presentation with my students. So I created this great slideshow. You can import PowerPoints that you created in here by clicking on File, Import Slides. What I would do is just actually, you can add that into your drive and then you can transition it into a PowerPoint. I guess I should show that. But you can go New Presentation, you can go Import Slides, or you can go download from Microsoft PowerPoint, I believe. Or no, that's bringing it down into a PowerPoint. Let me remember what I'm doing. Okay, so if you do File Upload and you get a PowerPoint, I don't have anything because I just wiped out my computer. But if you get a PowerPoint, it will allow you to change it to a, let's see if I can find one. It'll allow you to change it into a slide. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to click on Open with Google Slides. There we go, and it converts it. So if you didn't know how to do that, now you do. I'm rambling. Okay, I'm just so excited to share this stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now show you one more thing, and this is how I'm doing this right now, which is showing a video. So my favorite go-to for creating videos is Screencastify. So I don't know if you saw it, but when you make a Screencastify video, it actually will save it right to your drive because you're already logged in through Google, and it will actually allow you to just put them right into that folder, and you can share that entire folder with your students. or you can upload your screencastify video to YouTube. So I have a bunch of videos here I made for my students, and if I'm link sharing, this is what I wanted to show you before and I got sidetracked. So let's say I wanted to take this whole folder, or I wanted to just take this selection, I want to share it with a student. There's a couple ways I can do that. So right now, anyone can find this and view it, or I can give them the link. So if I copy this link, I can then give it to anybody, and they can use it. Now, some of these videos that I haven't really been through yet haven't been shared yet. So if I did not yet share it, I would need to click on that share button, click on advanced, and right now it's on private. So even if I gave them the link, they can't see it. And that's something that I kept forgetting, like, oh yeah, I gave you the link, thought you were going to be able to see it, but then you don't. So you need to go into these settings. I'm going to show you how to again. You click on something that you forgot to change the settings for, click on add, share with others. You could do this individually or just get the shareable link. So again, so I'm going to go to advanced. I need to change this to specific people, anyone with the link can view, public on the web, whatever you prefer. I normally do anyone with the link can view. And then I can share it, and then once it's shared, they can access it. And you can do get shareable link here. There we go. All right, so there's also this toggle button as well. So the other thing I wanted to share with you was the screencastify. So now that we've talked about how to share those videos, how to make those videos. So I'm using a different program as we speak, which I'll talk about, but it was much more complex. Screencastify was a great starting point for me. I wouldn't have been able to do this in the past. So you can add it to Chrome, and it'll add a little piece to your, whatever it's called, a link to your browser. I don't remember what those things are called, a plugin. Okay, so add a plugin, and then once you add it, you simply just use the program. It's really simple, and record. And then after you record, it'll give you a link. It'll also save it to your drive because, again, it's connected with your drive, which is cool. So I like that part. This Screencastify is great for recording yourself. You can then later take that video and post it into YouTube to make it even more shareable, but that's up to you. Now, I tried something different today because I wanted you to be able to see me, and I found out that you could, Screencastify also has a limit. After like 20 minutes, 20 minutes, or 15, it cuts you off. So I've been cut off 1 or 2 times. Not that my videos maybe should have been this long, but I've been cut off a couple times with Screencastify. If you have something short to say, it's really simple and great. That's what I will try to use, and then it kind of gives you that pressure to get your video out. So Screencastify is really helpful for doing a screencast showing you, and it already has your laptop webcam going at you. If you're showing students how to do something in your computer, I recommend using Screencastify, sharing it, because it'll be in your Google Chrome, sharing that link with them. There's also ways to embed that link into YouTube, or you could download the file, but that takes too long. Don't recommend that. Okay, so with my flipped teaching class, I was a few years ago in a grad class for flipped teaching, which was great for elementary because you're teaching the same thing with demos a bunch of times. So doing that recording was game-changing for me. I don't use it as much anymore. However, the first few times we did it for the class, I did iMovie, I did all these apps, and people were all throwing out all these different options. And then all of a sudden, somebody, or maybe I stumbled across the live stream on YouTube, and it was a game changer. It was so much faster. I didn't have to edit anything. I just talked to the screen, went live. After I stopped the video, it was online for kids to see. If you make a mistake, like I've blundered a few times through this, just move on, just like regular teaching. So the Go Live button's really helpful. There's a few ways to get there, which I'm going to show you. And that will be when you want to just talk to your kids and show them something like I would be with you right now in my mini screen, not showing my computer. So going live is really fast, really simple. You have a laptop set up. You can just, what I would do when I was showing demonstrations, I'd just prop it up on like a little stand or trash can. Anyway, so the other day I had someone who showed me another app I'll tell you about, but I asked them how they had this high-tech view of their hands doing a recording, and they said they just taped it to their kitchen cabinet. So I highly recommend taping your phone to your kitchen cabinet for great video demos. Okay, so back to it. So when you are doing a live stream, you can just go there a couple ways. So you can click here and do your channel. You can also go to plus create video or post. You can also get there by going to your channel. You can also get there by going to Creator Academy. Millions of ways to get there. It's also over here. You can click on live. That's 4 ways to get there. Clicking on live, clicking on create a video or post, clicking on Creator Academy. All ways for you to get there. But they just want you to make a video, pretty much, and live. So if I click on, I like to click this way. It used to be simpler by just clicking go live. Then they made it really challenging. It looks like they've simplified it again. But if you click go live, it will allow you to step through the process of titling it. And then after you stop that live video, take a thumbnail, you get the link. You fill out this information, click next. You have that link. You can delete it if you made a mistake. I've been there. But you have that link, and you can give it to your students. So what I would also recommend, if you're not ready to share it and you feel uncomfortable going live, I think of all the times I've gone live, like many, many times to make demonstrations. I've had a student join like one time on the side and say, "I'm watching you, Miss Olson," and it was a former student. So don't be nervous about that. But if you are, you can click on public and change it to private. And then this is the one I'm using right now. So it's much more complex than Screencastify, but if you are trying to show your screen, what I did and what I tried to learn something new today was I clicked on stream, and they said, well, you need to download a streaming device, and they recommended this one. So right now I downloaded this OBS. I'm using this OBS. All I had to do was kind of copy and paste the code in there. It took me a little finagling, but you could figure it out if you're up for a challenge more than Screencastify. And I don't know if I have a limit. Probably should have a limit right now. All right, so now we're on to the art stuff. If you're here as a digital art teacher, when I was teaching elementary, I use this all the time, and it is great because it's simple, but it has really similar stuff to Photoshop, but it's simple and it's free. So if you click on sumopaint.com or Google Sumo Paint and just click that link, you'll get here. You don't need to sign in or download anything. Just click on Try Online. And then you're going to go down to Try Sumo Paint 2 Beta. This also works on phones. I think my flash is activated, but I'm not sure about that part, honestly. Hopefully it works while I'm on the screen with you. All right, so Sumo Paint is really great for art teachers. I'm not going to walk through every single tool. I'm sure you can figure it out, but the main ones that I love are the gradient tool. Who doesn't love that? Like, so simple. It's beautiful, and it's one click and drag. After teaching, art physically for so many years, I mean, I would love a digital art day where we could just go into Sumo Paint and create stuff with ease. Like, that's kind of why I teach digital art now. But anyway, so really fun stuff with the gradients. You can change the gradient over here. to many different types. You can randomize it and it'll pick one for you. But this was great for, I would tell the students to make a landscape or do those surroundings and just talk about how they can create the mood and stuff like that. You can fill a big area here. So if I was back in time before our gradient, okay, my undo is not working, so I think I'm frozen. But anyway, I'm gonna step back in time here. I can use the paint bucket, obviously. Change the colors over here. Okay, so it's a little laggy. Okay, so those are 2 fill bucket options. You can do text. I had my students create billboard designs with this, which was really fun, or they would just explore. This kind of has like a radial design tool. I have to change the color. This kind of has like a radial design tool. You could do a day of radial design. I mean, you can't beat this, really. And then you could have them making things with shapes. I'm going to have my kids sketching here because it's more simple. We had a different program at my school for it, but I'm going to have my kids probably sketching in here unless they have a preferred app that's easier, but I'll probably go this way. We have the pencil tool, right? Now the coolest part about this that's just so underrated, other than the fact that I just created that in 5 seconds, is that we have we have the pen tool, all that stuff that leads into Photoshop and Adobe, but this paintbrush section is unbelievable. I can get like printing tools pretty much. Now to make these bigger or smaller, you can use your brackets. So, actually no, sorry, I'm in Photoshop now. You can make it bigger with this. Like, you can create the most amazing stuff with this. Anyway, I'm going to stop having fun in here. So I was experimenting with the brushes the other day. Yes, you can create like a 3D drawing here with this. I mean, the stuff you can do with these brushes is out of control. You can have them make a whole landscape and use, or whatever you want with these. Now, I just want to show you something I found the other day. You can change the brush set. It took me being at home for 2 weeks to realize that button because at school I never realized it. So these have even more brushes, like way more than I even knew they had for a long time now. Those are not colored brushes. Don't get too excited. We have 3D brushes, which are really cool. Look at this. I just can't. Like, I don't even know. There's endless possibilities here. Making like a metallic dream artwork. Okay, so the last thing I found that was really cool are these animated brushes. So they have even more there. But these were really cool. So basically, the animated brushes. Oh, they're not going to download. Okay. Well, basically they're like brushes that move. Like you draw with them and they like move. I don't even know. There's a lot you can do in here. The last thing I want to show you, if you're new to digital, which I don't think I knew when I started using this program, is your selection tool. So if you're selecting an area with your selection tool, you can block out an area. So I can just fill in that area for that gradient. Now the layer situation, I think you can only work with 2 layers without paying for this. So you can add another layer. And on that other layer, I can now draw something else, right? And then I can move that up or down accordingly. Oh, it looks like you have to use these toggles to move it down or up. So students can already start learning layers for Photoshop and Adobe in here. This is really cool. So I'm not going to go much further, but what I will say is for anyone else who's digital art, so that drawing program is great for any teacher, really. Give them a drawing assignment, give your kids the opportunity to learn some digital art. It's their future, and they will, a lot of people will know what that is in their future, so they should probably learn a little bit. Anyway, so Photopea, I just found a couple nights ago. I had no idea what it was before a couple nights ago, but when I opened it, I felt like I was home in Photoshop because it looks just like Photoshop. I'm opening it and I'm like, wow, I'm there. So it's pretty much the same thing. I don't know the story behind it, but I worked with it the other night, and we have all of our tools over here. We have quick selection tool, we have magic wand tool, we have our spot healing brushes. So my kids are going to be using Photopea. They've been learning Photoshop before we had our break for second semester, and it'll just be a slight reintroduction to Photopea, and then we'll be moving right along with our digital art. I think that's all I have for you, other than my slow thinking that I could maybe show you some survey results in Google Forms, which are really cool because you can sort them. And then Zoom, I think everybody's getting to know Zoom. I don't know how long Zoom's been around, but it's like blowing up, so congratulations, Zoom. I had never done one before this week again, but basically once you make your account with your teacher account, because your personal account apparently only goes for 20 minutes or so, your teacher account is going to go for a longer time, which is great. I guess maybe it's paid for, I'm not sure. Anyway, so Zoom, when you start that meeting, you do a new meeting, or you can schedule one. Scheduling one allows you to send the link out sooner, which I would say, and then you can have recurring ones. So if I was to schedule an event, I could do recurring meetings. So if my class meets the same time every day, or I just want them to be able to click that same link all the time to meet me, you can just do that. So I'll do schedule, and then pretty much it will give you a link. I don't know where it's bringing me. But anyway, so it will give you a link, it will give you a code, and it will give you a invitation. So once you do that, it'll give you that invitation. Anyway, so once you download Zoom, you'll be good to go. Oops, it's kind of kicking me off. Okay, so it's trying to kick me off. I think it's time. So I hope that the Google Classroom intro was helpful. I hope that you learned a little bit about Google surveys. Again, this all seems a little more natural to me now, but it's taken a few years of scaffolding and building up the mistakes through time to learn all of it. So if just one thing was helpful to you, that's amazing. If all of it was helpful to you, even better. If it helps one person, great. I just know what it's like to start to learn this stuff. It was hard in the beginning, and then I've had a couple people reach out to me saying, I know that you teach digital, so you have experience with it. And I do remember at the beginning of the year, just the details of learning it was hard, and learning along the way was not as good as if I had had this video or had all of it laid out. Just seeing it once, I'm good to go. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful for you. I will try to leave some links in the comment section, like I will try to leave you my Google form link. I will try to leave you the link to the video about that you can give to students so that they can upload to Google Classroom in their phone with either pictures of their work or files. And then the last thing was I'm going to be experimenting with soon is a video app where you can kind of do what I'm doing now but on your phone. I've used WeVideo in the past and stuff like that, but this video app looks really cool. It's called Video Shop. Haven't experimented with it yet, but I plan to, and it seems to be really cool. So enjoy, and hopefully this was helpful for you.